And welcome everyone to the final installment of the Full Press Hockey Weekly show here. Mike Straw alongside Chris Wassel. Jim, we decided to give the night off. He decided to take the night off the last Tuesday of the year. Whatever, he deserves it. He works hard for us. We are live on twitter.com/fullpressnhl, facebook.com/fullpressnhl, twitch.tv/full press coverage, YouTube full press coverage. Basically anywhere and everywhere you can watch us, you can find us. It's fun to be back. Fun that there's actual hockey back, but we were going to have a fun episode this week where we were going to probably talk about old NHL video games, but the news has dictated otherwise. Chris,
Again.
before we get into the news, how are you doing on this Tuesday evening?
You know what? I'm doing pretty good. I mean, it's nice here. Don't mind the cushy surroundings here, ladies and gentlemen. And I do emphasize cushy. My godkids were nice enough to get me a couple things to make the podcasting experience even more comfortable than it was before. So. I'm nice and elevated. I don't have to worry about silly things like blood clots in old age, and more importantly, they were nice enough to get me these comfortable devil sweatpants. So I can't complain at all.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to reorganize or move my desk, so then this will be my backdrop, having this straight behind, which will be nice to have. Not really hockey related, but much better to look at than a bunch of wires and then a mug.
In a mug.
In my work desk, because I have my production desk here and then I got my work desk over there, because otherwise I get too distracted, and we don't want any distractions here on Full Press Hockey Weekly. Guys, if you are watching us, do us a favor, retweet on Twitter, like it on Facebook and share it. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitch. All of that helps us grow, helps us get in front of more eyes. It really means the world to us, especially starting January 7th at 3 p.m. Eastern. I have a new show coming every Friday afternoon. I have no idea what it's going to be called yet, but you are going to get me ranting on a lot more than what I do here, because it's in the middle of the day on a Friday and I'm ready for the weekend by then. But NHL returned to play, Chris. Games returned. They were supposed to return yesterday. They didn't. Return today. I already had a game postponed, Columbus and Chicago. We have a game going on as we're recording, Tampa and Montreal. We got Vegas, LA, Arizona, San Jose. But this mess in the NHL continues to get worse, and we'll continue to talk the whole trending topic. I'm getting tired of it, but we keep having to talk about it. COVID continues to run roughshod, and we'll get into the taxi squads in a minute and the hopes for a full season. But with the games back today, what are your initial thoughts?
Braden Point is still really good. I mean, it's you hate to say it. I know it's against a bunch of quote unquote AHLers, but it was just funny. It's like somebody's like, "Oh, Braden Point's back tonight," and I'm like, "I'll watch him score like a couple goals in the first period." So I was like, "All right." I plopped the game on with about 2 minutes left in the first period. I see he has 2 goals already, and I'm like, I'm just gonna shut up now. And that's it. We're taking our prop bet that we had, that was, by the way, plus 395 at the start of the night, and we're gonna take our $20 profit and run. That's it. I only put $5 on it, so I was just like, when I saw that, I was pleasantly surprised and ran far away. But other than that, I think the most important thing is that, yes, there are games back. There are going to be a lot of limitations, obviously, with the issue of teams playing in Canada. You've seen a number of games postponed already. 9 more were today, for Canada-based reasons, strictly, and then 1 more because of COVID. Thank you to New York Islanders, who can't seem to get this together at all for whatever reason.
No one can get it together. Every team is hit right now.
And obviously there's theories on this, and there's all sorts of things. And one of the main things that I just kind of wish that maybe the CDC had gotten on this a little bit earlier, like a month earlier, we wouldn't have some of the problems we're having now. with the decreased quarantine for asymptomatic people. I wouldn't.
We could go on and
Yeah, I mean,
on
there's so
about
many.
that.
There's
This isn't.
it's a mess.
Thankfully, people
It's a
tuning in
mess.
don't want that, and neither do
But
I. But we
but
can. There's a lot
but
we can each say.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's like it's more for me, Mike, more for the hockey players and a lot of the press guys and ladies especially that got hit with COVID hard. I'm sure you know a couple. I
Yeah,
know quite a few myself.
too
I
many.
know I know Jimmy Murphy has it now. Mark Lazarus had it, or I think still has it. Actually, I'm sorry, and a bunch of other people that unfortunately wound up getting COVID despite doing all the what you would call the right things, and it just didn't matter. So there's this joy of, hey, there's games back, but at the same time, it's like that kind of gut punch where it's like, well, oh, you're still wading through this with not really knowing what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and it's one of those things of the not knowing what happened. It's going to happen next. Is what's scary in all this. It's been scary for almost 2 years now, and it's continuing to get scary, and it's just not anywhere good. I guess the only, what, I'm gonna have my only positive spin on things is I get to see Peyton Krebs debut as a Sabre tomorrow, and he's lit it up for Rochester since showing up, playing on a line down there with Jack Quinn. But it's still, I mean, Quinn's out still until January at the earliest, with his issues with mono.
Yeah.
Peyton Krebs, I mean, you get to see him in Buffalo, not what they wanted to do. He's not even going to be a taxi squad player once the team gets remotely healthy. He's going to be back in Rochester. But for now, yay. Everything else is not yay. And speaking of taxi squads, the NHL did reinstate the taxi squad. Players, they can have up to 6 players on the squad, and then also make emergency recalls from the minors from the AHL if or lower if COVID-19 would cause anyone to play without a full lineup. Is this something you're surprised to see happen now, or think should have happened sooner? Or what?
Probably to me, it's probably something that should have happened around Thanksgiving or so. Just to stem the tide for one, and for two, we probably would have had less postponements as the wave was initially building up to what it is now. At least for this part of the tri-state area, Mike, especially for the New York teams, obviously Philly, etc. We really could have used this at least a few weeks ago.
Right? Yeah.
Would have definitely helped. I mean, look, I mean the Devils. It looks like a case of like one of those really bad like, remember those HBO little vignettes when we were kids, where like 5 people would get on the bus and 3 people would get off, and you had to count how many people were still on the bus. Yep. That's what it feels like with COVID, sadly. With particularly the Islanders and the Devils. I mean, the Islanders today, even, a lot of people thought, oh well, they seem to be getting better and things are. And now Brock Nelson is back in COVID protocol, presumably due to a positive test, but it hadn't been made officially official yet. So it's just one of those things where you sit there and you have to basically go with the old common sense think of, well, I've got to keep myself healthy first and foremost, and then all those that are around me.
Yeah, what I don't get is just it's tough. We all know like this is a very spreadable virus. Like any virus. There's no real way, like I'm struggling to come up with the words to fully vent my frustrations. And I can't even say my frustration with the league, because no matter, I honestly am of the belief that no matter what methods a sports league is going to take, it's going to not be enough because you can't control that many people. There's just no way. Everybody has different views. Everybody has different actions and takes different actions. And we know, especially in North America, how people are, whether they believe in it or not. And we have thoughts for those people, but I'm just so like today we have more cases since this whole thing started, and I'm now in a way become only looking at hospitalizations, only looking at unfortunately deaths, only looking at ICU admissions to really get a feel for it, because I have now succumbed unwillingly, but succumbed to the fact that this is such a fast mutating virus that we've passed the point of no return as far as getting rid of it, because of how people are and how slow everything, sports leagues, everything were to react and instituting their policies because of the stubborn few. So it's just tough. Like, it's hard for me. My happy hockey's back. Yes. Am I going to sit and watch the games? It's going to be tough for me to like really enjoy the games because I can't act like nothing's wrong. Usually we've talked about it before. We try and act as these are escapes from our day-to-day life, even if it's our job to talk about them and write about them. We still treat watching the games as an escape. And it's really hard to escape when the whole point of the story is how is this team going to handle dealing with real life health issues every single night. It's really, really tough. And I've heard from a lot of people that they're looking, if they had another way to make an income and earn a living, they'd be out of it. It's supposed to be fun, and it's not fun anymore, and you can't blame them. You get just as fatigued in that and burnt out as you do anything else. And when your entire day in, day out is writing about this player, this person being added to the protocol and this reason, because it gets tiresome. And I kind of feel with them when talking about the game right now. It's very tough to talk about the game right now.
Yes, it is. I mean, you sit there, we're now, sheesh, this is, for all intents and purposes, we are 21 and a half months into this crazy thing. I mean, I remember sitting there second week of March 2020 going like, wow, this is really going to happen. The whole sports world and the whole world's going to come crashing on down. And it was one of the more surreal feelings knowing that the Devils Penguins game I was at was one of the last games that.
Hey, I was at Sabres Penguins. That was one of the last I was at.
Yeah.
Or that was one of the last in the league too.
That was one of the last. Yeah, that was one of the absolute last games. But that Thursday, the Devils Penguins game was the last one that I would see live for well over a year. And it seemed crazy at the time to see all these people and people that you interacted with on a daily basis that you would not interact with in person for a year. And, to think that we lost some of those people along the way does take a lot of the joy out of this. Look, it does, Mike. I mean, we can't sit there and sugarcoat this anymore. I mean, this is the reality.
No, and we've been trying not to. That's the thing. We've 100% been trying not to.
And I've said that to the gamut of full press coverage reporters. It's not easy. We're putting our face out there, and in that sense, it's like I get a lot of people that sit there and go, "We don't know how you do it," and it's like, well, we're not just doing this for us.
I don't know how we do it either, and I picked the perfect time to come back, and after taking a few years off from where we used to work together,
yes,
I picked the perfect time to come back and cover this game.
I've done far worse. I mean, look, I said this to somebody, and I still remember this. This was 2 years ago when my brother passed away, and they're like, "Didn't you take any time off?" And I'm like, "I didn't think to. I really didn't." It's like I would have felt more alone and abandoned if I had taken time for myself at that point, just because it was like everything my brother did involved some way, shape, or form involved hockey. And it sounds self-gratuitous, but
Yeah.
that was where he was most proud of me. He's like, my brother's a beat writer and he does all these cool things and he interviews hockey players that I wish I would give my eye tooth to get an autograph out of. And that was always funny because I would have players that would go up to me laughably and go, not giving you an autograph. And I was like, I know. I was like, I don't expect one. It was always a running joke because they knew him as an active, multi-sport collector of cards and such. And it was very funny. I mean, I'd have Scott Stevens come up to me and be like, nope, can't do it.
Yeah, I remember the days when I first started. So I got my first ever credential to cover the NHL, to cover the Buffalo Sabres. My first game was opening night 2011. And it was Buffalo versus Carolina. And I remember having friends saying, now can I meet players? Can you get autographs? Like, no.
Yep.
Like, no. Like, that's not how this works. Like, I check my fandom at the door.
Yeah.
Which really helped making this last decade. Oh, the Sabres haven't made the playoffs since that year when I first became a beat writer. So sorry. I figured me leaving when Jack Eichel came around was good. But anyway, it's weird. You check that fandom at the door, but yeah, it's like I remember having cousins and my father was so impressed. He's like, my son gets to go. Like, we grew up watching games, watching Hockey Night in Canada. The benefit of living in Buffalo, you got CBC. And now he gets to go, the game he loved growing up, he gets to go watch it and get paid to watch it and get paid to talk to these players and tell their stories. And it was the coolest thing. I mean, and I'm not going to say it's still not the coolest thing. Like, sure, I don't because we have a great writer in Mike Agello covering the Sabres for us. I don't go to the games and cover them like I used to, but it's not something I found my nice calling doing hosting and talking about the game on air. And I've found it. I ignited that spark again over the last couple of years of like watching it. Like, I stepped away, watched it as a fan, but then I found myself getting that critical eye back. And it's like, I came back and I try so hard. To escape it and be able to watch the games and really follow players. But then, yeah, another thing comes up and you're just like, all right, here we go again. And it seemed like things were okay. We hadn't had many issues with teams with protocols and things like that. All the good news about the players being vaccinated, which great. But again, that doesn't mean it's 100% effective. It just means you won't hopefully die. And then now it's just getting worse and worse to where it's just trying to find that spark and that itch again. And Kyle, I appreciate the kind words towards us. Like, we do this, admittedly not for the largest audience yet, but we do this because we know we don't want to paint this sunshine, rainbows, gumdrop view of everything, because that's not what it is. I don't like the sugarcoating. I don't like treating an audience like they're stupid and oblivious and naive. Tell it like it is. But it gets to the point. It's like, how much can you say before it's like, we get it already? It sucks. And I feel like a lot of people are getting to that point.
They're close.
They're not just close. Us, but fans, everyone. Yeah, it's really, it's tough. It's really, really tough. And I know, I mean, when we're talking, and admittedly, like, peeking behind the fourth wall a bit, I know admittedly our numbers, our listeners and our viewers have gone down since we had to talk COVID every single week. But when you're a news show, it's kind of, again, dictates by the news. It's not like we get to sit here and be like, oh my God, did you see about the great 3-way trade that was made between Calgary, Boston, Detroit? Holy hell. No, we can't do that. We can't have that fun, because that's not here right now.
Yeah. I mean, look at last week, for example. There's 48 games scheduled. We saw what, 7?
Yeah.
I mean,
we're up to 66 games postponed so far.
Yep. And that probably going to add a few more tomorrow. I'm
100%. Like Buffalo's supposed to face the Islanders. They play the Devils. Supposed to face the Devils tomorrow. Face the Islanders on Thursday.
Devils don't want to play. I can tell you that right now.
Neither game's going to happen.
Last year.
Neither game is going to happen.
Yeah, I can't see it. Although most of the Devils players that were in protocol are out of protocol, at least right now, or at least the quote unquote major players that were in before Christmas break. However, there's definite concerns that they don't want to go to Buffalo, to be honest, and that's for another time, place, and given what happened last year and the missteps that were taken last year.
And it's a whole mess. I mean, no player really wants to go anywhere right now. We know with the taxi squads, because they pulled out of the Olympics last week, we've had some players, namely Brad Marchand, come out, voice his displeasure about how you can have the taxi squads and write a full roster, but players can't make the decision to go to the Olympics. It's way different.
Yeah.
Though if it's up to the player, and any player, say they left it up to the players to go, any player that chose to go would have to willingly forego their salary for a period of quarantine before going and quarantine coming home
after.
So you're giving up, like, they have, like, to me, you'd be foregoing at least 2 months of your salary. That's what you'd have to deal with. If you want to make it the player's choice, then sure, make it the player's choice. But then let them know you guys aren't getting paid. At least with this, if something happens, they're still getting paid. If they miss games because they're on protocol and the taxi squad players got to play, they're still getting their paycheck, whether they play or not, because of health and safety and all that stuff. So It's like, all right. I mean, granted, a lot of these players, especially big names like Marchand, don't really care too much about, well, okay, it's a little bit of my salary, but like, I get his point, but at the same time, I still think it was not the best decision to go over there in the first place, and I still think it was the right decision to bail out.
Right. I mean, look, is the way the NHL did it the most scrupulous? No, it's not. Let's be honest. It was a rather shady way of doing it, but at the same time,
I do what you got to do in this situation. To me,
if you're a player and you really want to go over to China and play in the Olympics, just ask yourself one question: what if you got COVID while you were over there? You're not going to get the same health care. You're going to be quarantined for around a month.
Yeah, you're probably not going to be prioritized as you would be here as an American athlete, American
athlete. At least here you're a priority. There, you're an afterthought. And
you don't get the greatest. Yeah, you don't get the greatest healthcare. You're not in America and North America, and if you're like, and Europe, and if you're in a major sports league, you are getting top of the line care. In the Olympics, you're not getting top of the line anything.
Right.
I don't care what you are. Like, even the NBA players that go, they're not getting the same amenities. They're getting close, depending, but they're not getting the same amenities as they are when they go to New York to play a game at the Garden.
Yeah, it's a big difference. So I mean, and then you add that into the quarantines coming and going, and that's a lot of time to miss to play in a game, in an environment that is not necessarily conducive to your health. I mean, I get the wanting to go. I do. I would want to go represent my country 100%.
But common sense has to be taken into consideration in every sense of the word,
and especially now.
Yeah.
I mean, look, whether you want to argue numbers and such, and how many people got this and that, there is no doubt that there is a definite spike in cases. I mean, look, I had a close contact. I had 3 in the last week, and somehow dodged COVID.
Knock on wood. How. I've had a close case once, didn't get it. I did feel sick a couple weeks ago. Took 2 rapid tests. Both came like a couple days apart from each other. Mm-hmm. Both came back negative. Had literally it was just a sign of it, because asthma and seasonal asthma ruins lives. But it's one of those things. I have, luckily, me, my wife, my 2 small children. I have a 4-year-old and an 8-month-old.
That's the important thing.
have dodged the bullet. Knock on any piece of wood I can. My wife and I are both vaccinated. My wife got vaccinated before our son was born back in May. So he at least has some of the antibodies brought over from that. I just threw something on the floor, but my oldest can't get vaccinated yet because he's only 4. But we know we're leaning towards as soon as he can get in, we'll get him in. The only thing is he's at this stage where he's getting a bunch of vaccines, so we don't want to overwhelm him at one time.
Yep.
But I'm gonna do whatever I can to protect my family, and I've gone to working remotely completely 100%, 9 to 5. When we go to the arena, granted that the Sabres they're averaging less than 50%. They're averaging less than the Arizona Coyotes in attendance, which is hilarious. There's easy ways to sit away from people. I wear my mask when I'm close by. If I will admit, if I am over 6, 7, 8, 10, whatever feet away from somebody, I usually have my mask as a chin diaper because I like to see with the whole glasses fogging thing. But the second anybody even gets remotely, I sense they're getting close to me, it goes up. My son, no problem wearing a mask. He is the easiest to put a mask on. And I'm like, you are better than a bunch of people my age and older.
It's true.
And we go to the arena, like we're my wife and I are season ticket holders of the NLL, of the Buffalo Bandits. We wear our mask. Wear it in the game. Even though you got to show proof of vaccination, we know they don't really check whether it's you or not. It's a joke how they check the proof. So we wear our masks anyway. And that's kind of where we're going to be
for a while.
For a long while. And I know the NHL is adamant on having fans in the arena, and there's a big reason why with Canada and all that. But that moves on to the final subject that we'll probably spend a lot of time on most of the time, the rest of the show. What are the hopes in your mind right now? What would you put percentage-wise on the league actually having a full 82 regular season for every team?
God, I think people are going to be people are going to say I'm nuts, but I have it very high. I do think we're going to get there. I just don't think we're going to get there in the way that people would conventionally expect. So I'm going to say probably 80%. I think it's very high. I would jokingly say 82%, just because 82 games in a season.
What about 69?
I couldn't do it.
It'd be hilarious.
But I do think this season somehow goes into probably the first week of May or so, in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, luckily they've already shown they can come back after a short off season. To be fair, from a news cycle standpoint, we loved it.
We did
because it was so fast paced.
We did. I mean, look, was
selfishly,
it nuts?
We loved that from the draft to free agency to the start of this training camp within 2 months. Are you kidding me? There was no dog days because for 3 weeks of that summer, we were wondering if the Islanders were going to make any signing official.
Yeah.
So it was
those
fun.
are the days.
I know when we were talking about signings, crap. I don't know. So you're optimistic. In my heart, I don't think they do. In my head, the NHL does what the NHL wants to do. And that means, like we talked about, they're going to start doing matinee games to make sure they have the arenas. They will move games to make sure they have the arenas. They will do what they have to do to hit that mark. I do think if they do the 82 games, we're looking, you say first week of May, I think we're looking closer to mid-end of May to wrap up the regular season. And then we're looking at end of July for the playoffs. And then maybe we have a delayed start, whereas NHL usually starts at the beginning of October and the NBA would be at the end of October. Maybe we look at where the NHL starts at the end of October as well. And they condense it that way. But I do see the NHL will try their damnedest, unless this continues for another 3 weeks where we're still postponing game after game after game. If this keeps going into mid to late January, which for all intents and purposes, it might based on the current trends, then you're looking at whether or not you just say, all right, we redo the schedule, we drop everybody, and everybody plays 70 games, and you go from there.
Yeah, it all depends. I mean, based on current trends for what we see with some of the other countries that have experienced this a little bit earlier than we did, there's hope. But then again, who knows? Nobody knows. Right now, at least, there is hockey being played, and again, like I said, this may be the one time for we'll have some fun with this, maybe with the secondary show too. The over in a lot of games is going to be bet heavily, at least over the next several weeks. And Kyle said it too. Will the NHL try some extreme methods to get to 82 games? And like we said, absolutely, Mike. I wouldn't be surprised to see the 11 a.m. games come back.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
You might even see the dreaded double. The three. Yep.
So
3 game weekends. I would not be surprised.
3-on-3 games that count for like 10. They're never going to do 3-on-3.
That
is obnoxiously extreme.
Ooh, but
like you went, I mean, that's extreme. Like usually when people suggest something extreme, it's something. But for those listening and not necessarily watching, Kyle Senra suggests a crazy idea or extreme 3-on-3 games that account for 10 to 12 games for each team. I don't think they go that far. They are going to, but I do think we see 11 o'clock games. I do think we see some teams share arenas to get some games. Like, all right, well, there's a game between Buffalo, for example. There's a game between Buffalo and Ottawa. All right, well, they got to get the game. Both arenas are full. They have the game in Toronto. Like that type of stuff is what I see the league doing to fit in games. They have the league game in Toronto like in the middle of the day before the Leafs play later that night. And they have in front of no one type of thing. That's ultimately what I see happening. But who knows, really? It's really tough. And that's where, I mean, of anybody's suggestion. It's really, really tough for me to think about where they're going to go.
And just think, we haven't even gotten to the stuff where, like, a certain World Junior Hockey tournament has been turned upside down. Damn it. You knew it had to happen, Mike. It had to happen inevitably. Just because of all the talk with the ladies junior tournament getting postponed or canceled again for the second year in a row, which was a mess in of itself. You had this feeling that somebody's World Junior hopes were going to go absolutely south. You just didn't expect it to be, I don't know, Team USA of all teams?
Team USA, yeah, after winning 3-2 in their opener against Slovakia, they are forced to forfeit their game tonight against Switzerland.
They had no goalies.
Because of COVID protocols, and if they don't return negatives and things don't go back to normal, they're likely to have to forfeit their next game as well. They are not going to get it out of the round robin if that's the case, and it sucks for defense, but, it happens. It's kind of just you deal with the hand you're dealt, and it's unfortunate 100%, but it's tough. I feel bad. But at the same time, like, you just got to deal with it now. You have to deal with it. Am I pissed about the women's? Yes. Do I feel they're getting a raw deal? Yes. Because if it was the men's side, and I don't want to hear anything about, you're just being a woke guy. No. If we all know if it was the men's side, they'd postpone it. Yep. We all know. And if you don't believe that, you are blind and ignorant. Tomorrow is US-Sweden. Right.
Yep. We're just waiting to see what happens,
So we'll see what happens tomorrow afternoon. But for some reason, I thought it was Thursday. But I'm already messed up. I'm still coming off this holiday weekend thing, and I'm just completely messed in the head with my days and dates and stuff. I almost forgot. It wasn't until like 2 this afternoon that I remembered we had a show tonight.
Huh.
Just because I thought today was Monday. So
darn it. It's not.
So we
Damn.
no, unfortunate. So we have, I mean, U.S. World Juniors, we have that. The Premier Hockey Federation is not.
And that's true too. I mean,
is not
25
dealing with it well.
25 hours and counting for Team USA to turn some negatives in.
Yeah,
basically.
Everything is a mess right now in every hockey league. I mean, we don't have the PHF on the women's side.
Yep.
Aren't scheduled to return to play until January 8th. Who knows if they do or not. They've had their own issues. The only benefit is they have time away. Things can get settled. They can quarantine their players if they want, but this is also a league where players have to work their 9 to 5s. Yep. Where they can't just be like, all right, well, I'm getting paid to quarantine. No, they got other jobs to do, so they're going to be in contact with other people.
Right. Yeah. You figure the AHL has its own mess right now. You know, they're losing games because now they don't have enough players.
Yeah,
and then, now you have a taxi squad, so they're
you have the taxi squad. Then you got to figure out, all right, what does the AHL do with the ECHL? Does something with that work out? Like, there's such a mess right now that I know you feel the same way. Thank God we aren't in the position to make the decision, because I don't think no matter what decision you make, there's a right decision. I think no matter what, some win, some lose, but most of all, you're gonna upset a lot of people. And I don't feel, or I don't envy the people in the position to make these decisions on how to move forward, because you're guessing. Everybody is guessing no matter what. Everyone is guessing.
Exactly. I mean, look, we don't know. I mean, is there certain things that maybe I know more than the average person? Sure. Does that mean we know everything about this? No. There's no way.
All I know is you are smarter than the average bear.
Hey, you know, I mean,
hey, boo-boo.
Hey, look, shoot. I mean, I said this to people, and they asked, well, how did you spend your Christmas break? And I'm like, damn it. It's like, we really have to get into that now. It's like, no. It's like, I wanted to be playing ball hockey, but no, you can't do that either. So that's out. The place by me is actually shut down because of COVID. So, and I would completely understand that they have an absolute policy right now of there is nothing going on until, I think for this area, I think it's January 30th now.
Yeah, it's not like it's a great place to be. Everything's getting shut down everywhere. Yeah. I mean, we had Western New York. The numbers aren't good. They just continue. Breaking the daily record in infections again of 1,300 today, or over 1,300. Like, it's not going down, and it's not going to go down anytime soon because of how transmissible this new variant is. And it's just until we get things together and sorted out, and people actually start caring about their fellow human, which I have a better shot of playing real life Frogger on the I-90 and winning during peak traffic than that with my slow self. That it's tough to see. I cannot see a light at the end of the tunnel right now. Where about a year ago ish, I started to, because I'm like, okay, maybe people will actually, once it's there, will start taking this seriously, vaccinated, blah, blah, blah. But I honestly, it's tough for me to see any green or silver lining. It's tough for me to see what's going on overall. It's tough for me. It's really tough for me in my heart of hearts to think the league gets through a full season or finishes it whatsoever. Excuse me, without going into a bubble format. I just don't. I don't know what to think anymore. I really don't. I don't know, and I hate being an I don't know person, but I really don't. I don't.
Yeah, it's there's definitely a lot of uncertainty. Oh, by the way, we just want to let people know that Austria did indeed score once against Canada. All right. So for those that had the team total of a half a goal for Austria, congratulations.
You hit the over.
You hit the over. not a high bar in particular, but you did nonetheless. And of course, by the way, Tampa is still ahead 3-2 over Montreal, with Tampa's AHL/ECHL goaltender so far beating Montreal's AHL/ECHL goaltender.
For the record, we are up to, I wanted to get the actual number. As of the game tonight between Chicago and Columbus, we are at 80 postponements. We have already surpassed by a long margin last year's numbers of postponements.
I'm not surprised.
And it's only going to go up, like you said.
It's gonna. It will keep going up. I mean, at least on the bright side, it looks like, from what one of the beat guys I was just reading with, in LA, Vegas, LA is a go. As Murray Pam pointed out to us earlier today, Ottawa, shoot, God knows when Ottawa's going to play.
Yes,
because now their Friday afternoon game is now also been sacked. They're postponed against Pittsburgh. So, for example, Colorado is postponed for the rest of the year. Now,
and we mean 2021, by the way.
Not the whole season, people. It's okay, all right? Don't panic. Don't sit there and like the scene from Airplane where everybody runs into the phone booths all at once and knocks it over. Don't do anything like that. No. We're just meeting this week. Okay. How about we just say this week? That's better, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. The rest of the year.
But I mean, it's funny because I looked now. All right, Mike. For example, New Year's Eve even had 7 games scheduled. You know, like for a Friday, that's a robust schedule. Now, 4. And that 1 o'clock game on Friday is still very questionable at best. For those that don't know, Newark has an indoor mask mandate basically, and also has what they call a transmissibility index of sorts, where the game may not necessarily be played, not because of the NHL, but because of the city of Newark. So, you know, there's a lot of factors at play. It's one of those things where, look, Dougie Hamilton said it to me best a couple of weeks ago. About 90 minutes to 2 hours before the game, an NHL guy comes up to us and just taps us on the shoulder and lets us know if we're playing or not. And I thought he was joking. He's not joking.
No. And it's sad.
You know, and he said too, he's like, and what he said too was simply, oh, by the way, you know, it's like, you know, for the guys that are, you know, coming on or off protocol, you know, it's not, sometimes they don't get the test results until warm up or later even. You know,
and I know there's a lot of people and well, they're just playing a game. It's a game, blah, blah, blah. There's other things more important. And I do agree there are more important things. But it's still like this is at the end of the day, this is our job. Like them playing keeps us employed.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things of like, yes, there are a lot more important things. Like I want everybody to stay safe and healthy as much as possible. I want the players to stay safe and healthy. I want hockey back. We need it because we need some talking points, especially for next week, for the beginning of the new year. But the players, I do feel for them because you go to work every day not knowing, well, is this the day I find out I have it? And then a lot of these players have young families. And you're like, all right, well, I guess I'm not seeing my family for a while because they're not going to go home and put their kids at risk. Right. Then they have to warn their significant others if they have them and their families, hey, you might need to get tested because of this, or be just proactive, and you don't know. And then you got like it's just always a snowball that just goes and goes, and it just constantly gets building until it's just, no pun intended, an avalanche causes a mess.
And I, you know, for those that don't know, I said this to Mike before we went on the air tonight. For those listening, I mean, like I said, I'm not joking when I said I literally had 3 close contacts with people who wound up eventually testing for COVID just in the last week. That just shows you how transmissible this variant really is. No matter if it's bad for somebody or not, it's still a significant disruption of life at this point for the vast majority of people. And that's enough to scare the bejesus out of people. And, for hockey players, especially players with young families. I mean, Tyler Seguin kind of said it best today. It was pretty funny. They had a Zoom conference with him, and he's sitting. I can't remember the exact location, but it was somewhere in the Dallas Stars building. Okay, the Dallas Star movie theater like seats as a background wasn't a dead giveaway. Okay, maybe it was, but he said you realistically have to sit there and go, a lot of the players have, it just comes down to simple. Hey, we're human too. I mean, yeah, we make millions of dollars playing a sport that we love, but there is a human factor that just, has to be.
Yeah, they know how lucky a lot of the players know how lucky they are. There are some that are full of themselves, ego driven, and they don't realize how lucky they are. But most of the players, when it comes to professional athletes, know how lucky they are. Mm-hmm. Whether you're talking baseball, whether you're talking NFL, like so many of them know how lucky they are. And the reason you see a lot of like these flamboyant and over the top personnel is because they get to live out a fantasy. Like they are living a fantasy life in a way that you could have only grown up dreaming about. They're lucky. They know they're lucky. And it's when that fantasy life of being an athlete and going on the ice, forgetting everything, they can't even go out, like how I was talking at the beginning of the show, wanting to go out and watch a game and just forget. They can't even go out and play a game and just forget. Because there's some players that think, oh, if I body check this guy, am I going to be in close contact because he doesn't know it? Like there are players who think that way.
Yeah.
When they're huddling up with their goaltender, is the goaltender infecting everyone? Like they don't know. And it's really, really sad because they don't know.
But on the semi bright side of things, we think there will be 2 more hockey games tonight, or at least right now we can pretty much say with a reasonable amount of certainty that there will be 2 more hockey games tonight at least. But after that, we don't know. We just don't know. The hope is that they're look. Do I hope the Sabres play the Devils tomorrow? Absolutely, because I want to see how far the Devils fall in the standings at this point. Because it's coming.
But will it happen? We don't know.
But right now,
we know
we don't know,
and it's tough. Like, I guess I kind of want everybody after this to just go listen to Bright Side of Life from Life of Brian.
Yep.
The older I get, now I first saw that movie, I was like 14. The older I get, that song becomes more and more relevant every year. Just
isn't that crazy?
They were. I mean, we all know Monty. If you're a fan of comedy, Monty Python is like the OG, like holy grail of comedy troupes. But man, that song, it sits. It doesn't go anywhere. Kyle has a point. I think Monty Python's a good thing to watch. Yes, the NHL is not moving. It has ceased to be. We can make the jokes, but
find me a shrubbery on ice. Let's go.
Nobody suspects the COVID Inquisition. We can just bring it all to real life. But speaking of real life, this is where we end it for the week. Yep. It's been a fun. We've been on the air for a few months now, good 6-7 months. It's been a fun week in, week out. 2021, not the best year overall, but good for us because brought me and Chris back together after a few years away from each other. For everybody who's tuned in so far to this show every Tuesday night, thank you. We hope your Christmas, if you celebrate, was a great one. We hope your New Year is as safe and healthy as possible. We will be back next Tuesday night, January 4th, 8 p.m. Again, please, if no matter the outlet you are watching the platform, like, follow, subscribe, share it, comment. Everything you do helps us grow. Until next week, stay safe, hug the ones you love. We'll talk to you again real soon.
We'll see you in 2022.